This is the labor leader, Keir Starmer. Hopefully, I'm saying that right. I'll play this video. And you're gonna see this guy sides with the Tory party on genocide and with Israel. He sided with Rishi Sunak and supported his position on George Galloway. But you guys notice how they're not trying to paint him as the right winger who cozy up to people on the right. So let's listen to the video. We still got a lot of cover. God damn.
Galloway only won because Labour didn't stand a candidate. I regret that we had to withdraw our candidate and apologise to voters in Rochdale. But I took that decision. It was the right decision. And when I say I've changed the Labour Party, I mean it. Obviously, we will put a first-class candidate, a unifier, before the voters in Rochdale at the general election. I put in place a very tough due process for the Labour Party. And most of the criticism in the last 2 years has been that that process is too tough. I'll continue that in place because I will only put first-class candidates before the electorate at the general election.
These people are pretending that someone who supports a genocide just won an election. The way they are reacting is the way someone should react if someone who supported the Gaza genocide won the election. This is the true red-brown alliance. You know how they try to paint us as the red-brown alliance? They try to paint George Galloway as the red-brown alliance, someone who's secretly right-wing. That's the message that comes from social democrats. That's the message that the Majority Report, for example, says with serious faces. This theory that socialists, we are just cramming the team up with the right wing, even though we are resisting their coalition more than anyone else. Like, for example, like the right-wing populists who pretend they are against the establishment, but they believe everything the establishment says about socialism. Oh, man, I hate CNN. I hate the New York Times, but I believe everything they say about China, though. So there's only one people who actually consistently oppose all these right-wing coalitions. That's the Marxist-Leninists. That's the socialists. That's the RBN left. We're the ones who constantly oppose this right-wing coalition that they accuse George Galloway of. They accuse us of being on the right, being friendly to the right. No, we draw a hard line on right-wing imperialist war and politics, not them. So I'm going to show you guys this unhinged speech from this brown tool of the empire. So we are at the apex of the genocidal psychosis that hit society. We have the point where we're fighting wars on multiple fronts and funding Nazis openly, and we are funding genocide. We are peak genocidal psychosis. We are peak mask off of the violent empire. So what do liberal Western society do in reaction of this? You have the first brown prime minister. You have Rishi Sunak. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if he's the first brown prime minister, if I'm correct, I think they were saying that when he won. I'll let you guys fact check me. I'm looking at the chat. He's the first brown prime minister, correct? He one of the first ones, right? I remember there was a lot of conversations about that, right? So, of course, he's the one who supported the genocides. Of course, he's the one that's extremely passionate about funding Nazis in Ukraine. Yeah, I see a lot of people agree with me. So when I live, I can use you guys to fact check me. So the first ever brown prime minister, he supports a genocide in Gaza. He supports Nazis in Ukraine. We have the United States at the UN, the only country to veto a genocide, and who do they have doing it? The Negroes. The black people at the UN raising their hand. You guys see how insidious this is? This is why I hate and I have grown to despise liberalism. Liberalism is inviting George Floyd to the White House and then sending more money to the police with a bill with his name on it. Liberalism is putting a rainbow in your profile, putting hashtag Black Lives Matter as you bomb and mutilate children. I utterly despise liberalism in its forms, which is one of the reasons why I decolonized my mind and I'm a fucking communist. You guys can call yourself whatever you want, but I am for revolution of this fucking state. I am against this capitalist dictatorship, which led to a genocide and led to Zionism. Let me read this headline. This is the real Red Brown Lines. As they try to paint George Galloway as being on the right, listen to this. Keir Starmer, fuck, I just learned how to say that goddamn name, backed Prime Minister's plans to restrict protest rights, saying Sunak was advocating unity. They say there's unity on this issue. There's unity on this issue of restricting your right to protest. This is the UK, as Dr. Cornel West wants us to be afraid of the authoritarian Russia, the authoritarian China, the authoritarian Iran, as you have the labor, the quote-unquote left in the UK saying there's unity in cracking down on anti-genocide protests. You can't make this shit up. And these motherfuckers got the nerve to use the fucking term authoritarian? Are you serious? Clean up your own damn house, cowards. Now, this is... I'm going to let a lot of this play. I need to take a break, too, anyway. That's a good way for me to take a break. Let the video play. Make another cup of tea. Because here is the unhinged Prime Minister, the pro-genocide Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. Am I saying his name correct? I need to start asking you guys, especially when I cover names I'm unfamiliar with. He responds to George Galloway win directly. And I knew that there was going to be a meltdown on this issue. I could have never imagined that it was going to be this bad. I mean, I knew it was good. I said it when we did a lot with Nick and Zoya. We covered this breaking live. You know what I mean? I'm glad you guys confirmed. Yeah, you guys are literally helping me in the chat here saying these goddamn names. Zoya usually helped me with the Ukrainian and Russian name when Zoya's live with me. I knew there was going to be a meltdown. I said on Saturday I was going to come on live and cover the meltdown. But even with that said, even I couldn't predict how fucking bad it was going to be, to the point where they had the fucking Prime Minister come out and declare the end of, just straight up the end of, I was about to say end of democracy, but their democracy already cooked. So he just outright admits that he's going to implement fascism. So I'll let his speech play. I'm going to take a quick break while it plays. That helps me stop from stopping the video. With Nick and Night Season 2, I hear the feedback. I'm trying to get better. Then one thing I'm going to try to do more and more of. Let the video play more often. Something I'm working on. So I'm going to take a break as the video play. I already saw it. So I'm going to let the video play for people who haven't seen it. I'm going to take a quick break and I'll be back.
In recent weeks and months, we have seen a shocking increase in extremist disruption and criminality. What started as protests on our street has descended into intimidation, threats, and planned acts of violence. Jewish children fearful to wear their school uniform lest it reveal their identity. Muslim women abused in the street for the actions of a terrorist group they have no connection with. Now our democracy itself is a target. Council meetings and local events have been stormed. MPs do not feel safe in their homes. Long-standing parliamentary conventions have been upended because of safety concerns. And it is beyond alarming that last night, the Rochdale by-election returned a candidate who dismisses the horror of what happened on October the 7th, who glorifies Hezbollah, and is endorsed by Nick Griffin, the racist former leader of the BNP. I need to speak to you all this evening because this situation has gone on long enough and demands a response not just from government, but from all of us. Britain is a patriotic, liberal, democratic society with a proud past and a bright future. We're a reasonable country and a decent people. Our story is one of progress, of great achievements and enduring values. Immigrants who have come here have integrated and contributed. They have helped write the latest chapter in our island story. They have done this without being required to give up their identity. You can be a practicing Hindu and a proud Briton as I am, or a devout Muslim and a patriotic citizen as so many are, or a committed Jewish person and the heart of your local community, and all underpinned by the tolerance of our established Christian church. We are a country where we love our neighbours and we are building Britain together. But I fear that our great achievement in building the world's most successful multi-ethnic, multi-faith democracy is being deliberately undermined. There are forces here at home trying to tear us apart. Since October the 7th, there have been those trying to take advantage of the very human angst that we all feel about the terrible suffering that war brings to the innocent, to women and children, to advance a divisive, hateful ideological agenda. On too many occasions recently, our streets have been hijacked by small groups who are hostile to our values and have no respect for our democratic traditions. Membership of our society is contingent on some simple things: that you abide by the rule of law, and that change can only come through the peaceful democratic process. Threats of violence and intimidation are alien to our way of doing things. They must be resisted at all times. Nearly everyone in Britain supports these basic values, but there are small and vocal hostile groups who do not. Islamist extremists and the far right feed off and embolden each other. They are equally desperate to pretend that their violence is somehow justified, when actually these groups are two sides of the same extremist coin. Neither group accept that change in our country can only come through the peaceful democratic process. Both loathe the pluralist modern country we are. Both want to set Britain against Britain, to weaponize the evils of anti-Semitism and anti-Muslim hatred for their own ends. The faith of Islam, peacefully practiced by millions of our fellow citizens, is emphatically not the same thing as the extremist political ideology of Islamism, which aims to separate Muslims from the rest of society. Islamist extremists and far-right groups are spreading a poison. That poison is extremism. It aims to drain us of our confidence in ourselves as a people and in our shared future. They want us to doubt ourselves, to doubt each other, to doubt our country's history and achievements. They want us to accept a moral equivalence between Britain and some of the most despicable regimes in the world. They want us to believe that our country and the West more generally is solely responsible for the world's ills, and that we, along with our allies, are the problem. In short, they want to destroy our confidence and hope. We must not allow that to happen. When these groups claim that Britain is and has been on the wrong side of history, we should reject it and reject it again. No country is perfect, but I am enormously proud of the good that our...
So I made it halfway through. How did I do? Oh man, I was supposed to take a break. I was banging my head against the wall listening to this, fam. I made it halfway through. I'm going to play the other half. And then we're also going to play George Galloway's legendary response to this. So now do you guys see what the real opposition, what he called Islamists? You guys see how they're making it about religion? I told you guys to reject that bullshit. You guys see how they're using it to scare white people? White people hear the word Islamist. Oh, they must be bad. Oh, they must be bad. And then working on the UK, on the Tories in the UK, on the Labour in the UK, it works. No, he's against colonialism. He's against he's against people who resist colonialism, I should say. He's against the anti-colonialist movement. People who are against genocide. He's against people who oppose genocide. People who oppose illegal occupation. According to the UN and according to many human rights organizations, Israel is an apartheid state. You had the ICJ that just heard arguments from lawyers all around the world who accurately called out Israel for being an illegal occupation. But Richie Sunak wants you to be referred to as an Islamist if you don't agree that Israel has the right to exist, which I do not. An apartheid genocidal state does not have the right to exist. Countries inherently don't have the right to exist. You get your right to exist from the will of the people. You lose that right inherently when you are an apartheid state, because apartheid states are not democracies. When you commit genocides, you lost your right to exist as a state. When you are engaging in colonialism, you lost your right to exist, especially in occupied areas. These are what legal scholars and legal minds, this is what they were saying. This is what this is what they were saying at the ICJ, that Israel don't have the right to defend themselves. If you use international law as it is written by you people, they say you're an Islamist and you're a counter to the values of the UK. Are you proud to be a counter of the values of the UK? I know I am. I know I'm proud to be a quote-unquote radical if Western values lead you to supporting genocide and ethnic cleansing and apartheid. If supporting apartheid makes you an Islamist, I guess I'm Islamist as fuck. I thought I was an atheist for a second. I guess I'm an Islamist. How many times we pray to the East? What other customs should I be aware of? Because this is a leader of a whole ass country that is trying to paint anti-genocide and opposing Western occupation and colonialism as Islamist. This speech is even crazier when the first time I heard it. One last thing I say, and I will let it continue. I think I did a good job. I'm only stopping it once. We're gonna have 2 breaks in between this. You guys know I was fucking seething the entire time this guy was talking. That was like my record. I let this shit play for 5 minutes. That's an all-time record for me allowing psychopaths to speak on my show. But he also said, he was like, these people have the ideology that make these false equivalences that says that Britain is bad at some of these authoritarian states. He said it something like that. You guys remember? The Islamists, they make these false equivalences saying that we are as bad as other countries. Sir, you are the most violent empire known to man. To make it a 100% factual statement, undeniable, I think you can say of all time, in modern history, the UK is the most violent empire of all time. And if you have an ideology that acknowledges that, if you have an ideology that acknowledges how evil the UK and the UK empire has been, all of a sudden, you're an Islamist? This is standard real history. Like, anyone who actually know history, yeah, the fucking British Empire is fucking evil. The British Empire is still doing evil shit. They supported the Iraq War. They supported the genocide in Gaza. But that makes you extreme by acknowledging that? That's the extremely authoritarian ideology. But that's the one I wanted to respond to. We got one more hide to play, and then we get to George Galloway. And we get to George Galloway response after his.
The country has done. Our place in history is defined by the sacrifices our people have made in the service of their own freedom and that of others. And when these groups tell our children that they cannot and will not succeed because of who they are, when they tell children that the system is rigged against them or that Britain is a racist country, this is not only a lie, but a cynical attempt to crush young dreams and turn impressionistic minds against their own society. I stand here as our country's first non-white prime minister, leading the most diverse government in our country's history, to tell people of all races, all faiths, and all backgrounds, it is not the color of your skin, the God you believe in, or where you were born that will determine your success, but just your own hard work and endeavor. And we must be prepared to stand up for our shared values in all circumstances, no matter how difficult. And I respect that the police have a tough job in policing the protests we have seen, and that they are operationally independent. But we must draw a line. Yes, you can march and protest with passion. You can demand the protection of civilian life. But no, you cannot call for violent jihad. There is no context in which it can be acceptable to beam anti-Semitic tropes onto Big Ben in the middle of a vote on Israel-Gaza. And there can be no cause that you can use to justify the support of a prescribed terrorist group like Hamas. And yes, you can freely criticize the actions of this government, or indeed any government. That is a fundamental democratic right. But no, you cannot use that as an excuse to call for the eradication of a state or any kind of hatred or anti-Semitism. This week, I've met with senior police officers and made clear it is the public's expectation that they will not merely manage these protests, but police them. And I say this to the police: we will back you when you take action. But if we are asking more of the police, we in government must also back up that call with action. To that end, this month the government will implement a new, robust framework for how it deals with this issue, to ensure that we are dealing with the root causes of this problem, and that no extremist organizations or individuals are being lent legitimacy by their actions and interactions with central government. You cannot be part of our civic life if your agenda is to tear it down. We will redouble our support for the PREVENT program to stop young minds being poisoned by extremism. We will demand that universities stop extremist activity on campus. We will also act to prevent people entering this country whose aim is to undermine its values. The Home Secretary has instructed that if those here on visas choose to spew hate or protest or seek to intimidate people, we will remove their right to be here. And our Britain must not be a country in which we descend into polarized camps, with some communities living parallel lives. It is not enough to live side by side. We must live together, united by shared values and a shared commitment to this country. And I want to speak directly to those who choose to continue to protest. Don't let the extremists hijack your marches. You have a chance in the coming weeks to show that you can protest decently, peacefully, and with empathy for your fellow citizens. Let us prove these extremists wrong and show them that even when we disagree, we will never be disunited from our common values of decency and respect. I love this country. My family and I owe it so much. The time has now come for us all to stand together to combat the forces of division and beat this poison. We must face down the extremists who would tear us apart. There must be leadership, not pandering or appeasement. When they tell their lies, we will tell the truth. When they try and sap our confidence, we will redouble our efforts. And when they try and make us doubt each other, we will dig deeper for that extra ounce of compassion and empathy that they want us to believe doesn't exist, but that I know does. If we do that, we can build on our great achievement in creating today's Britain, a country of kind, decent, tolerant people. We can make this a country in which we all feel a renewed sense of pride. This is our home. So let us go forward together confident in our values, and confident in our future.
Wow. You guys gotta give me props for that, man. And I can't say anything else other than the fact that was a 100% pro-fascist speech. Actually, fuck pro-fascist. We just witnessed the Prime Minister of the UK give a fascist speech. Remember Scratch a Liberal and a Fascist Bleed? He just explained how in the UK we support liberal democracy. That's what he said. You guys see what liberalism really is? This is what we said at RBN. This is why I'm a communist. I am their enemy. Our ideology is the enemy of them. Liberalism is capitalism. Trump, MAGA, that's neoliberalism. You guys have the same politics that this guy has. It reached the same end result. Liberalism leads to pro-genocide. We just heard a fascist speech where he said he's going to double down and weaponize the police state even more against people who oppose genocide. For the people who call for Hamas's and Palestinians' legal right to self-defense. It's Israel that don't have the right to defend themselves as an occupier. Not the other way around. Palestinians legally. This is not me being a communist. This is not me being a radical some radical motherfucker from the Midwest. It's enshrined in international law. It was quoted by China. Occupied people have the legal right to resist their colonizers, even via armed resistance. Do you guys understand? So what he's saying is, if you support that, if you support Palestinian resistance, you are a fair target. You're a fair game. This is the capitalists strapping up, fam. They are saying that anyone who opposes genocide in the military-industrial complex and its quote-unquote liberal society, they are going after you. And he said, if you're one of the good ones in the audience, he's like, man, make sure you snitch on the bad ones. Make sure you keep the audience in check. Because as we said on RBN, as I said on RBN many times, a government-approved protest is just a glorified prep rally. Once again, a government-approved protest is a glorified prep rally. This is why I've been calling out the right wing, Ron DeSantis, and all of them who feel like they can dictate how Americans protest. They say, oh, you can't protest at the Supreme Court's house. You can't protest at politicians' house. Why the fuck not? You have the responsibility. You are the most powerful, one of the most powerful people in the world. And you think you can't be protested? If you support genocide, you should have not a moment rest. You see, I saw a right winger say, "Oh man, we draw the line because there was people protesting, calling politicians out when they ate at restaurants." They say, "Oh, you can't call out politicians when they eat at restaurants." These motherfuckers are Dr. Seuss. You can't protest them in a bar. You can't protest them from afar. You can't protest them over there. You can't protest them anywhere. You can't protest them on a float. You can't protest them on a boat. You can't protest them in a home. You can't protest them in a dome. Capitalists are fucking Dr. Seuss. These motherfuckers don't want us to protest these motherfuckers anywhere. Can't protest these motherfuckers at the Capitol. A protest that is government approved, a protest that made the ruling class comfortable is a prep rally. Y'all motherfuckers getting together and having fun. That's what it is. And that is what they're saying. George Galloway's response, which was glorious. Dude, seeing George Galloway handle these media motherfuckers, seeing the establishment being forced to deal with him now, is going to be glorious to see. It's going to be glorious. Like 3 minutes. I may stop at the halfway mark like I did last time.
Standing here at George Galloway's campaign headquarters. George Galloway, did you just watch the Prime Minister's speech?
I didn't watch it, but I understood the first part of it related to the Rochdale by-election.
The Prime Minister has just said that your election of you to Parliament is beyond horrifying. What do you say to that?
Well, I can understand how disappointed he is about the by-election. The Conservative Party, which is the government of the country, was crushed, not just by me, but by an independent candidate that no one had ever heard of before outside of Rochdale. So it was a disastrous night for the Conservatives and a disastrous night for Labour. I got more votes than Labour and the Conservatives and the Liberal Democrats and the Reform Party put together, which adds up to a pretty crushing rejection of the two-party system. So I understand why he's alarmed.
I want you to address some of the specifics that the Prime Minister said about you this evening. He said that you backed Hezbollah. Is that true?
I don't know what that means, backed Hezbollah. I oppose Israel's occupation of Lebanon, and I respect the right of people in occupied territory to resist their occupier. And I've done so since Hezbollah was formed and Israel occupied much of Lebanon, right up to the Litani River, regularly bombing Beirut and so on. So I'm not sure what business that is of his, because you see,
Hezbollah are a terrorist organization.
Actually, they're part of the government of Lebanon, a country with which we have sovereign diplomatic relations. I had this debate with Sky's Anna Botting in 2006. It's quite an epic clip. You should watch it. More than 100 million people have. They said all these things about me in the by-election. And in the by-election, it was them that got crushed in the democratic process. So I'm not sure why he would reheat it now.
The Prime Minister is saying
talk
that
as if
you
this is God. We're talking about little Rishi Sunak in the fag end of his prime ministership. Don't talk to me as if he's come down from the mount with tablets of stone. The things that he says are somehow meant to awe me. They may awe you, they don't awe me.
A lot of people have just watched what the Prime Minister said. This is your opportunity to respond to what he said.
Well,
he says that there are forces here at home trying to tear us apart. He is implying you are a divisive figure. You have run an election campaign that has tried to appeal, particularly, not
won?
entirely, to one section of the community.
Who won the election? Me or Rishi Sunak? I've got the Democratic mandate here, not Rishi Sunak. He didn't even come second. He was lucky to come third. So don't put to me statements made by Rishi Sunak as if I'm supposed to be impressed by them. He don't impress me much.
This is a man. I'm halfway through. You guys see I made halfway. I'm stopping it once. Let me stop it once, fam. This is a man who's been dealing with their bullshit for years. For years. We can only hope to be as based. I've only been doing this for 3 years. This is why, like in 20 years, can you guys imagine me? That's what I want. That's what I'm shooting for. You know what I mean? This is a guy who's been dealing with their bullshit for years. And you guys see the deeply authoritarian mindset of this liberal capitalist reporter. Oh, come on, man. You making a lot of people uncomfortable. Who? The ruling class? Because last time I checked, people voted for George Galloway. Now, taking your authoritarian fascist point of view at face value, wouldn't you say it's the UK government and the US government causing a disruption because they support a highly unpopular genocide? So you're like, oh, he causing a disruption? No, he's calling out the sins of the ruling class. So the reason why there's a lot of upheaval in the United States, the reason why Congress has 17% approval rating in the United States is because we don't have health care. So when you blame Congress for not giving us health care for the reason why we're so polarized, they don't. When you blame Congress for the fact that we still have a minimum wage that's like $7.50 an hour, wouldn't that cause people be upset? You guys see how they never frame it from the point of view of the worker? He unapologetically frame it from the point of view of the ruling class. You're making the ruling class uncomfortable. Because as George Galloway points out, if he got 40% of the vote, if he got so much people voting for him, apparently they're not upset at him. The majority of the people who voted in this election wasn't upset at him. They was upset at the options, which is the establishment. This is a point of view they can't even take. Sorry, 725. God damn, that's crazy. 720. I think it's 750 in Missouri. 725, yeah. Actually, I think maybe more in Missouri now because we had the ballot initiative that raised it. I remember it was $7.50 for a while, but $7.25 is crazy. We have a $7.25 minimum wage, but people wonder why Congress have a 17% approval rating. You guys see, why don't you call Congress for that? Oh man, your politics is making Congress upset. I'm sorry, the politics of Congress, the politics of the president supporting genocide, even though most people don't support a ceasefire, you causing a lot of discontent. You causing a lot of upheaval in your society. It never framed that way. It's always framed from the people who fight against the establishment. One more thing I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna continue this interview. I'll go back a little bit as well. You guys see how he said you support terrorists, you support Hamas, you support Hezbollah, terrorists. You have the audacity to call other people terrorists as you support a genocide that is bombing babies, that's committing a genocide. You guys see how these words means nothing out of the mouth of a capitalist? And you must decolonize your mind. People say, "Oh, Nick, you commend Hamas. You won't refuse to condemn Hamas. Aren't they terrorists?" No. Why would you even believe that? Because they say it. It means nothing. According to him, the UK government is not terrorist. According to Rishi Sunak, you're an Islamist. You're an extremist if you even mention the fact that UK is somehow an evil country. You're an Islamist. If you're not patriotic, you're evil. That's what Rishi Sunak was saying. Meanwhile, those same people have the nerve to call whole ass governments like Yemen, like in Syria, terrorists. You guys see how that doesn't mean anything? You guys see how we should define these terms ourselves using intellectual, using knowledge, using history. This is why we got to reject anti-intellectualism. We can't just wing it and listen to wherever the establishment says, like Cornball West, like Bernie Sanders, like John Farrar, like the professional managerial class. So that's me chiming in. After this video ends, I have a few quick receipts, and I'm gonna read super chats and we wrap up. So let's continue the video. I'm gonna go back a little bit so you guys have full context, and then I'll let it continue.
Democratic mandate here, not Rishi Sunak. He didn't even come second. He was lucky to come third. So don't put to me statements made by Rishi Sunak as if I'm supposed to be impressed by them. He don't impress me much.
We at Sky have spent some time today on the streets of Rochdale, and there are people who say that they feel intimidated by people like you and the people that have supported you.
I have just
and they have pointed out that you have concentrated your campaign on foreign affairs, and they worry that Rochdale will not be the winner.
That's my answer to you. I was just elected with a thumping majority by the electorate in Rochdale. That's all that matters to me.
So why are there people in the streets of Rochdale today worried?
Well, people voted yesterday, and they voted for me. Why is that difficult for you to grasp?
Why are there people on the streets worried?
There may be people who didn't vote for me who are worried, but the majority, the thumping majority, voted for me. I've got the mandate, and I'm going to the House of Commons with it.
And it's a mandate, you think, to do what? Because there are people that listen to what you say about whether or not Israel has a right to exist, what you say about what many Jewish people think are threatening
we had this
slogans.
Conversation last night. Why are you reheating it?
Because in the light of the Prime Minister's
Don't keep
statement.
telling me about the Prime Minister as if he was Moses.
Do you not respect the Prime Minister?
Do I respect the Prime Minister? I despise the Prime Minister. And guess what? Guess what? Millions and millions and millions of people in this country despise the Prime Minister. I don't respect the Prime Minister at all.
What are you planning to do next week when you arrive in Parliament?
Well, I'm meeting the Speaker on Monday morning, and then I'll be introduced and sworn in. I'll be escorted by the Right Honourable David Davis MP, former deputy leader of the Conservative Party. I don't know why he would do that if he thought I was the kind of man you're clearly implying that I am. David Davis is one of the great parliamentarians of today and this age. and I'll be taking my seat in the House of Commons and speaking for the people of Rochdale. That's what I was elected to do.
And what is your message also to Keir Starmer?
My message to Keir Starmer is that the skids are under you in scores of Labour seats up and down the country, because you've lost the trust, you've lost the confidence of millions of your traditional loyal voters.
Now we have now had an election where 2 of the candidates have alleged intimidation. The Prime Minister referenced that intimidation in his address on the steps of
to the Prime Minister as if that's supposed to impress me. The Prime Minister is the Prime Minister is a rather diminutive, diminished and degraded politician. He made a party political statement. I don't care about Rishi Sunak's attitude. What I care about is that the returning officer, a man of unimpeachable integrity, I'm sure you'll agree, declared it a free and fair election, and me as the winner, and Rishi Sunak as one of the crushed 2 big parties in the state.
So why are two? So why are 2 candidates?
Keep repeating the same questions to me, because I have other people to talk to. So let's make this the last one, shall we?
We got a politics to deal with.
Allegations of intimidation, allegations that your supporters intimidated other candidates.
5 times you've said that. The returning officer declared it last night. You were there as a free and fair election, and me as the winner.
And the Electoral Commission today have said that they're going to look and talk to the parties.
Have to just suck it up. I won the election.
How is it possible to be this fucking based? How is it possible? How is it possible to be this powerful?
Thank you very much indeed.
And you guys see what an effective leftist look like, cornball? George Galloway looked this man right in his eye and said he does not respect the Prime Minister. He didn't call him his brother, you cornball. This is how you be a leader. This is how you speak for the people. They don't want to hear your Ivy League bullshit. This is exactly what we was talking about at RBN. This shit right here. He not calling brother Rishi Sunak my brother Prime Minister. He is looking these people in their face and saying, I don't respect them. Now, my good friend Biden, like Bernie said, you look at the media in your face and you say the government is not legitimate. Who told you guys this? And I'm not taking credit for this at all, because this is all George Galloway being based. But this is exactly the message that we told Cornball West to say. Instead of saying brother Biden, instead of serving these dishes that are easy to digest for the liberals, you should be having these dishes that's hard for them to swallow. You know what I mean? I have no respect for you, Joe Biden. You're a genocide enabler. You're a genocide Joe. And I'm not gonna have my take be too long, because I honestly think this speaks for itself. But that one, the first thing I was thinking about, as I heard, is legendary, and I believe this clip is going to go down as legend here. This is a legendary clip. The people gathering around him, fam, you couldn't write this shit. This right here, you could not. Right after he won the election, he wins the election. There's a massive smear job on him. He gets ambushed by this reporter, and the crowd organically forms around him. And by the end, they're cheering. You can't fucking write this. In 20 years, they're gonna make a George Galloway movie, and people gonna see this scene. They're gonna, oh, this is bullshit. They're gonna like, this is bullshit. This definitely didn't happen. This is a movie scene, and he utterly destroys every point where he's making, to the point where the reporter is talking and the people start sighing as he's talking. That's how much George Galloway sons him. Meanwhile, that Cornball West, he's like, yeah, I respect brother Rishi. Yeah, we disagree. We respect them. Well, for him, he wouldn't be on the ballot. But it's exactly what we fucking talk about. One more thing I'm gonna put on this clip. One more thing I'm gonna stay on this clip. You guys see it in the very beginning how George Galloway had to explain democracy like a child to him. Aren't people scared? Sir, more people voted for me, didn't they? So don't you feel like more people voted for me? Sir, more people voted for me. People came up and vote. And he pretended it's some evil thing, something we should be fucking cautious of. You mean democracy? The same way that liberals are freaking out about this recent Supreme Court case where they delaying this trial because they're like, oh no, they're delaying the trial. Now the American people got to decide. I thought you guys trying to save democracy and they openly anti-democratic.